Hello, and today I'm going to be talking about the Red Scare. The Red Scare was a phenomenon that happened to 1947 to 1957. The key people involved were Senator Joseph McCarthy, J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI, and Harriet Truman. So, I'm going to explain this very first picture here. This is simple. It's just the communist flag. Nothing really special here. Just to show that, obviously, this is a communist flag. Next picture, this is Joseph McCarthy. Now, McCarthy had a huge impact on this in a negative way, because here's a paragraph about it. Representative Joseph McCarthy nourished the expanding alarm, utilizing unwarranted gossip tidbits and terrorizing to pick up reputation as an intense government figure. With his newly discovered power, McCarthy reviled various open figures against being socialist supporters. His casualties included superstars, government authorities, and anyone who might get in his way and think his viewpoint is wrong. The greater part of the general population erroneously denounced were pure, but no matter what, if it was wrong or right, it destroyed their notoriety. A few times even their businesses, regardless. He ruled against a comrade notion until the Army McCarthy hearings of 1954. Everything except demolished his validity. Okay. And the next picture I have here is a propaganda poster said, "Loose lips might sink ships." And what they're trying to say here is that if you could speak out, and if you were, it might sink our ships. You could be leaking things to the communists because they don't know. We don't know if there's communists hiding somewhere, listening to all we have. So we gotta make sure, just like our previous conversation about Snafu, he opened his lips and told everything, and it turned out that he was giving right to the communists, the bad side, I should say. And the next picture we have here is "Stop Communism. It's everybody's job," which is basically saying everybody's going to have to do it at one point. And it doesn't matter how you do it, but just don't feed it into the communists. Simple. Next one is, is this tomorrow? America under communism. This is trying to explain that if this world was under communism, it would be chaos and nobody would want it. It would be down with America and into the communists' hands, and it'd be a really bad thing to happen to us. Next one here is, oh, I guess that's it. Well, I have some more. I have a summary of what all this is, of the second Red Scare for you. Here it is. The Red Scare phenomenon happened twice in U.S. history. The first Red Scare, 1919 to 1921. It was energized by the Americans' feelings of dread that the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia would spread to the United States. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the second Red Scare that happened in 1947 to 1957. Was perpetuated by a number of high-profile domestic and international events, including the Rosenberg trial, which is what I'm going to go to right now, which was about Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were United States citizens who were executed on June 19, 1953, after being convicted of committing espionage for the Soviet Union. They were accused of transmitting nuclear weapon designs to the Soviet Union. At the time, the United States was the only country with nuclear weapons. They were also accused of providing top-secret information about radar, sonar, and jet propulsion engines to the USSR. At the time, the United States was the only country with nuclear weapons. They were also accused of providing top-secret information about radar, sonar, and jet propulsion engines to the USSR. And that brings us to the other topic. The topic that I brought up earlier about the appearance of Soviet atomic weapons abilities. Now, this is why they were killed, because we weren't sure who were giving away all of our things. The Soviets could have actually taken our designs for atomic weapons, or they could have just got it on their own, which is not what the country thought. They thought somebody in the inside leaked it to the Soviets, so they got to atomic weapons, which is bad, really bad. And another thing I was talking about, the Iron Curtain, which is a really short explanation, but the Iron Curtain was the name for the boundary dividing Europe into two separate areas from the end of World War II in 1945 until the Cold War in 1991. The term symbolizes the efforts by the Soviet Union to block itself and its satellite states from open contact with the West non-Soviet controlled areas, so they keep out everybody who might oppose them. Now continue with my summary. The national government built numerous barriers against the Soviet undercover work, and one of them would be in 1947, President Harry Truman issued Executive Order 9835, which commanded that every single elected representative must be investigated with respect whether they were really dependable to the U.S. administration or not. So they wanted to make sure that whoever they were hiring wasn't part of the Soviets, and they needed to make sure that they didn't at all were like evil, had evil intent to give U.S. documents or just any information at all about the U.S. straight to the communists. Obviously, we don't want anybody taking straight all of our information from us. And now, they basically had to go and were put under an oath. HUAC focused on locating communists within the government, subcommittees of the government in Hollywood. The pressure to ostracize communists was so intense that the film producers created blacklists to prevent suspected communists from gaining employment and influence. So they basically just shut out anybody who they assumed to be communists, so they didn't get any work and were basically ostracized from the U.S. The FBI expanded to handle the increase in inquiries and trials of accused communist supporters. J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, was an ardent anti-communist whose influence had perpetuated the first Red Scare. Hoover and his investigations used espionage tactics of their own to locate potential communists, including wiretaps, surveillance, and infiltrating leftist organizations. They didn't care anymore. They would violate a lot of human rights just to get the communists out of the U.S. because we were done with them. We couldn't stand them anymore. We had to get them out. The efficiency of the FBI was critical in many high-profile cases. Their evidence aided to the prosecution of 12 potent communist leaders in 1949. Later in the 1950s, the evidence gathered by the FBI proved that Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were guilty. And here to read back to what I was talking about earlier, Joseph McCarthy was also a problem because he was feeding in to the increasing of panic. He was using newfound rumors and intimidation to gain notoriety as a potent government figure. With his newfound fame and influence, McCarthy denounced numerous public figures as being communist supporters. His victims included celebrities, government officials, anybody who would stand against his viewpoint. Most of the people he falsely accused were innocent, but it ruined their reputation. Some of the times their employment regardless. He dominated anti-communist sentiment until the Army McCarthy hearings of 1954, which ruined his credibility, and nobody took him seriously anymore because he was just spouting a bunch of garbage that you shouldn't believe anymore because it was all lies. It's like the boy who cried wolf. You could just call anybody communist at this point, nobody would believe him, even if they really were. That's it. I think I finished. I think I talked about most of the things that were in the Red Scare and what we did to them. Goodbye.